What if I told you that China, once mocked for copying Western technology, now leads the world in e-commerce, fintech, and artificial intelligence applications? And what if I told you that the very backwardness that seemed to hold China back actually propelled it forward, allowing it to leapfrog developed economies in digital payments, online retail, and mobile technology? Let me show you how China went from copying to creating in just 2 decades. It's a transformation nobody saw coming. And it reveals something fundamental about innovation itself. In the early 2000s, Chinese internet companies were carbon copies of Western models. Xiaomi was a pixel-to-pixel imitator of Facebook. The Chinese version of Yahoo was Sohu, later Sohu, where So refers to search. China's variant of YouTube was called Youku. The founder of Xiaomi, touted as the Apple of China, loved wearing black turtlenecks that unabashedly evoked Steve Jobs. Fast food company KFC had multiple Chinese copycats with the same red and white logos, branded as MFC, KFD, or KFG. Car company Chery had a logo eerily similar to Nissan's Infiniti. I once met a local mayor who had encouraged building bridges across rivers in his town, all unabashed copies including diminutive versions of London Bridge and the Golden Gate Bridge. Copying wasn't considered disreputable in China. It was pragmatic, widely accepted as a way of catching up. But as the world snickered at such imitations, Chinese companies were catching up to global leaders. And in recent years, they started to surpass them. Here's what people misunderstand about innovation. It's commonly defined as developing something new, a first-of-its-kind device, method, or process. By this definition, the iPhone counts as innovation, but not the Samsung Galaxy, even though Samsung has a third of the global market share and is bigger than Apple. But this definition is too narrow. Any significant improvement of an existing product, process, or service counts as innovation. Facebook wasn't the first social networking platform, but its improvements transformed how the internet is used. James Watt didn't invent the steam engine, but his machine was a significant improvement on Thomas Savery's invention, patented a century earlier. As American economic historian Abbott Payson Usher puts it, invention proceeds from the constructive assimilation of pre-existing elements into new syntheses. An invention is a new combination of prior art. Chinese innovation tends to be based on new applications of existing technology. Machine learning, the core technique behind artificial intelligence, may not have been invented in China. But Chinese applications of AI are world-class. Self-driving cars, autonomous drones, facial recognition, robotics. For urbanites coping with limited living spaces, Chinese companies came up with paper-thin treadmills that fold in two and tuck conveniently away in closets. For parents wanting early education for young children, robots designed to both entertain and teach. For police officers coping with high air pollution, air-purifying nasal devices to wear while performing duties. The Chinese are particularly good at making existing technology both better and cheaper. Huawei's top-end handset is half the cost of an iPhone, while Xiaomi's equally sleek smartphone costs even less. Xiaomi was ranked #1 as a global smartphone brand in 2021. Perhaps above all, China has been creative in developing business models. Everyone knows video streaming platforms, but China's iQIYI allows viewers to purchase products and clothing from the very shows they're watching. Right in the moment, Pinduoduo encourages members shopping online to form teams to get group discounts and play games with friends and family to win prizes. This novel shopping experience allowed it to become the fastest-growing company in history, from an upstart in 2015 to a $30 billion company at its IPO 3 years later. Meituan combined the services of Groupon, Grubhub, TripAdvisor, and Yelp all on one platform. These companies are finding new ways to monetize services, attract customers, encourage them to buy. Chinese companies are remarkably clever at taking existing technologies and applying them in new ways, expanding them from one to N. Some dismiss these adaptations as mere tinkering, but they're significant because they contribute to growth by increasing productivity and generating income. China is replete with first-of-their-kind companies. Mobike for bike sharing. Ant, the payment-cum-financial technology company that spun off from Alibaba, is easily the most innovative such company in the world. TikTok isn't the first short video sharing app, but its AI-powered technology is the best of its kind. No economy copies its way to the top. All economic success stories include a stage involving copying and mimicking technologies of industry leaders. Imitation is basic to economic life. No one argues that stealing British designs for looms made America a superpower, or that copying turned Nintendo, Hitachi, and Sony into household names. Today, we see the imitation phenomenon running in a new cycle. Now it's Chinese companies being copied by Malaysian, Indian, and Philippine competitors. But here's where it gets interesting. Backwardness provided China with advantages by spurring radical innovation as solutions to previously unresolved problems, leading to technological leapfrogging. E-commerce sprang up in China because residents living outside large cities had few traditional retail options. In this arid landscape, companies like Alibaba found opportunity to flourish. Now, Chinese e-commerce companies are the most innovative in the world. The same holds true for financial technology companies, which sprang to life responding to China's inchoate financial industry that failed to serve households and firms. China was free to ride the wave of a revolution in financial technology and create a totally new ecosystem of digital payments. Chinese consumers scan QR codes with phones to pay instantly for purchases. With a few clicks, they can pay, borrow, invest, or purchase insurance products tailored to their needs. Having once been the front runner, the US now lags far behind in digital payment technologies. The burden of legacy creates powerful incumbents with deep-seated interests in maintaining the status quo. Kodak was first to develop the digital camera, but intentionally held back for fear of losing its lucrative film business. Eventually, that decision proved fatal. Innovative fintechs provide dramatic benefits to those in remote areas, far from bank branches or ATMs. Studies show that Ant's big data technology promotes inclusive financing. Ant's MyBank services 35 million of the country's 100 million small and medium-sized companies. Borrowers' digital footprints serve as new collateral, lowering default rates. In the latter part of the 20th century, China leveraged economies of scale to build a manufacturing powerhouse. But in the age of information, scale takes on new significance. Because tech companies are based on data, they harness what economists call increasing returns to scale. If you double the inputs, you more than double the output. Artificial intelligence creates a virtuous loop where the more data flowing into algorithms, the more efficient those algorithms become. Chinese companies enjoy clear competitive advantage with their giant domestic market. Toutiao perfected newsfeed technology, matching people with news they might like, thanks to a huge customer base. The founder of Keytrip, the largest online travel company in China, tells me size allows rapid learning from vast numbers of customers. Alibaba has 800 million users on various platforms, 500 million consumers borrowing money from Alipay. Information harvested from more than 1 billion users of Tencent services helps make the company's products more useful and fun. Scale is not everything, which explains why India doesn't have nearly as many tech giants as China. Other crucial factors include human capital, physical and digital infrastructure, long-term financial capital. But scale matters in ways far more pronounced than in a pre-digital economy. When a factory makes an additional shoe, production and sale incur additional cost. But the additional cost of delivering a digital product over the internet is next to nothing. Tech companies become more profitable by acquiring as many customers as possible. Having 1.4 billion consumers connected by internet and accessible via smartphones is tremendous advantage. Of the 25 most valuable internet companies in 2020, 11 were American and 9 Chinese. Of every 10 venture capital dollars invested in AI in 2018, 5 went to Chinese startups and 4 to American ones. On many fronts, from e-commerce to ride-sharing, it's Chinese and American companies competing toe-to-toe. The internet technology sphere is split between the two largest economies partly because of benefits of scale. The natural question is whether people around the world will use Instagram or TikTok, ride with Didi or Uber, shop with Amazon or Alibaba. The die may already be cast in China and the US, but other parts of the global marketplace are up for grabs. In 2017, Didi made its first foray into Mexico, where Uber controlled almost 87% of the market. Mexico shares a border with the US. English is more widely spoken than Chinese. Mexicans know more about American than Chinese culture. Yet only a few years later, Didi surpassed Uber as the biggest player with 56% of the market in 2022. Uber took the model that proved successful in the US and tried replicating it in other countries. Didi's strategy focused on adapting their model to accommodate demographic conditions, cultural norms, and national characteristics. In Brazil, where many drivers live hand-to-mouth, Didi paid them daily rather than monthly. Most didn't have bank accounts, so Didi created one-click application allowing approval within days. During COVID-19, Didi provided free disinfectant and face shields. Because most Latin American transactions were cash-based and exchanging money was dangerous during the pandemic, Didi added a digital wallet to its app. Didi invested heavily in training centers, facial recognition technology, relationships with local banks. Different tech sectors exhibit distinctive market profiles. Internet search engines are dominated by one player, Google. When it comes to 5G telecom equipment, there are just four global players: Huawei, Ericsson, Nokia, Samsung. But ride-sharing has significant local players. In Southeast Asia, Grab is popular. In Russia, Uber merged with Yandex. In India, Ola wrestles with Uber. In e-commerce, even more local players vie with global giants. In Indonesia, Shopee and Tokopedia capture majority market share. In India, Flipkart is ahead of Amazon. Even in China, Alibaba has less than 60% of the market as JD.com and Pinduoduo aggressively stake claims. One important factor is whether a sector has global or local externality. Google's search engine has universal benefits. Whatever Google does in India is good for the company worldwide. Amazon has significant global externalities because its extensive network means consumers worldwide benefit from wide variety of offerings. In sectors with significant global spillover, whoever has better technology likely dominates the entire global market. But sectors with significant local externalities, like online delivery and ride-sharing, can accommodate variety of local competitors. WeChat, despite being fantastic and massively successful in China, enjoyed less international appeal. Social media has important cultural dimension, and WeChat is designed mostly to suit Chinese customs, tastes, demands. However, if the new generation of Chinese entrepreneurs can produce goods appealing to millennials worldwide the way K-pop and TikTok have, Chinese companies may become serious competitors. But here's the twist. When China needed to catch up with the rest of the world in technology, it allowed the tech sector free rein, creating many billionaires and catapulting China's digital economy to the forefront. 20 years on, after creating nearly 100 companies worth more than $10 billion each, the government decided the time for allowing them to run loose should end. Many of the largest tech companies were accused of exploiting monopoly power, using data to manipulate consumer preferences, illegally selling data to third parties. After numerous cases of data abuse, the government made a dramatic move in 2021 by introducing new restrictions on big tech, education, and gaming companies. Fines for the most well-known internet companies: Alibaba, Meituan, Didi. Even the loss of $1 trillion in stock value for Chinese internet companies seemed to leave the government unfazed. As governments around the world recognized, regulations and anti-monopoly policies are justified, especially pertinent in a country where disorderly growth has been the rule. If designed and implemented well, they could lead to fairer outcomes and more innovation and efficiency. If the opposite occurs, they can hurt entrepreneurialism and disincentivize the most talented. The balancing act between regulation and innovation, fairness and efficiency, the new objective in China's playbook, requires ever greater skill on the part of the government. So here's the paradox. China went from copycat to king in 2 decades. It leapfrogged developed economies in e-commerce, fintech, and mobile technology. It harnessed the advantage of scale with 1.4 billion connected consumers. It innovated business models that transformed how people shop, pay, travel, and communicate. But just as Chinese tech companies reached global dominance, the government stepped in to regulate them. The technology war China already won may be constrained by its own government, and that reveals something fundamental about China's model: the state giveth and the state taketh away. The question now is whether Chinese tech companies can continue innovating under heavier regulation, whether they can compete globally while operating under constraints their American competitors don't face, whether the balancing act between control and creativity can be sustained. The technology race isn't over, but China has already won several important battles. And understanding how it got here reveals everything about how innovation actually works in the 21st century, how China turned backwardness into tech dominance, from copycat nation to global leader in e-commerce, fintech, and AI. What if the very backwardness that once made China the world's punchline actually became its greatest superpower? In just 2 decades, the country mocked for shameless copying has leapfrogged the West to dominate digital payments, online retail, mobile technology, and real-world AI applications. This is the shocking hidden duality of China's rise. Imitation wasn't a weakness, it was the launchpad for world-changing innovation.